Welcome to Classroom Conversations. As we are in the thick of back to school season, we wanted to have a discussion with the parents, teachers, administrators, even counselors about what it looks like to be involved in a child's education, the issues top of mind every single school year. And so we have gathered all of these folks here with us today to share individual experiences, but also some shared ones to see where we can find common ground. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. I would like to start by getting some introductions, and we will start with you, Miss Martha.
My name is Martha Hicks. I am presently the assistant principal at Northumberland High School in Heathsville, Virginia. I've been in education 50 years. I've been a teacher, a guidance counselor, a truant officer, and of course, a principal and an assistant principal. I enjoy my job. I love children, which is the reason that I'm still there. I think what's most important to me is making sure that students have a voice, that they can speak up for themselves and be self-advocates, whether it's about cell phones, or about their behavior, about discipline, or whatever. I think it's very, very important.
My name is David Hillgrove. I am a retired teacher. Taught in most of the school systems in the Richmond area. I was a social studies teacher, but I was also what they called an ITRT, which was a technology person that supported teachers in the classroom. I find important topics to me. First off, just the science of adolescent psychology. Kids haven't changed that much, and yet everything around them has changed dramatically. But I spend a great deal of energy in technology in the classroom, so I guess that's where I would hang my hat.
Hello, I am L. Frances Brown, she, her pronouns, and I am a retired school psychologist. I'm the regional representative of the Virginia Academy of School Psychologists, and I've been employed in Chesterfield, Henrico, DC Public Schools, as well as Dallas Independent School District. The most important thing to me is the support of LGBTQIA plus students, and given the climate, providing a safe space for all children in schools.
My name is Ivy Dowdy, and I am a career switcher. I was in business, and I went back to school and got my degree and certification in education, and I'm a special education teacher, certified K through 12. I teach in Chesterfield County, and I've been in Chesterfield County as a teacher for 20 years. One of my most important topics, well, the reason I got into education is I believe our educational system has fallen worldwide, and I would love to be a part of bringing back the 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic.
Hi, I'm Crystal Varner Parker. I am by day a Presbyterian minister, but as a participant in this panel, I'm a mother of 2 Henrico County students, a rising 3rd grader and a rising 6th grader. I'm formerly a financial educator, so I've spent a good amount of time in our schools, and I believe deeply in the importance of parents and community members partnering with our schools, because partnership and collaboration is the key to student success. And I believe deeply in creating a space of welcome for students in the classroom, which can be found in a variety of ways, but support and welcoming is incredibly important in our schools.
Well, thank you all for sharing that. So we are going to hit on a lot of the topics that you all brought up, plus some you didn't. So from AI in the classroom and bullying to teacher retention, these are all things we're going to talk about. But first, Crystal, you talked a lot both about the parent and student side of this. I want to start with the student side because classroom behavior is something that was brought up by everyone here as well. I want you all to talk about what you've seen in terms of classroom behavior, what you'd like to see.
That's an excellent question. I think when it comes to classroom behavior, a lot of this comes down to parents needing to be part of the solution and not vilifying teachers and seeing them as the enemy but a partner in their child's education. that I think far too often we're seeing them like, oh, how could this teacher say this, that, or the other about my child? My child would never. And I've never met a teacher who is targeting a student and wanting to say things negatively to harm a student. They're really wanting to partner with parents for the success of their child. And I think if we can remember that teachers are here to help their students succeed, then that's going to create some great change, really. I think with a lot of what's happened with technology, students are getting so used to spending so much time just on a tablet all the time that learning those social skills of how they're communicating with each other, parents at home have to help their kids with that. So helping their kids learning how to have positive conversations with one another. So I think it's a both and of work at home, but partnering with the teacher and wanting that child's success.
I believe I have a slightly different experience. We have very supportive parents at the schools that I've worked in. And with classroom behavior, I also believe that you need a strong administrative team. Yeah. And I'm fortunate in that regard as well. The administrators really back us. Technically, they expect the teachers to handle the discipline in their classrooms. And we do that by establishing relationships with the students in the first few weeks of school. And then we were able to, when they enter the classroom for the rest of the school year or after long breaks or so forth, we are able to kind of read the room and see who's feeling up to learning and who's not. And then we address those particular individuals, because if they are hungry or have had some type of trauma overnight or on the bus, then they are not prepared for learning.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's what we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it keeps down the negative behaviors.
Thank you for saying that. And I think oftentimes the behavior that we see in the classroom is just a reflection of what is going on for children and maybe their families or some community issues. And it's just reflected in the classroom. And it does take a strong administrator and parents to partner with the school system, and of course, the counselors and the school psychologists to support. Yeah. Because just like every parent wants the best for their child, every teacher wants the best for their students, every child wants the best for themselves.
So you all have hit on the resources that might be needed to help some of these students. What gaps do you see in terms of resources or equity in resources, where you think it's going well, where you think it needs fixing?
I think there's a real reality that schools are understaffed and under-resourced, that there's no doubt that they do not have enough teachers. I was just speaking with an educator today, and they don't have a CTE teacher at their school. And so you have all these students who would benefit from all of these CTE-related classes that won't have it. And so when you don't have enough teachers, you don't have enough instructional assistants, you don't have, insert the blank, when parents are expecting magic to happen in schools when you don't have what you need, I don't know how that's supposed to happen. And so I know that not every school has the same setup, but I really believe where parents or even community members can come in and be of support, to volunteer, that's critically important. My mother-in-law every week goes to her neighborhood elementary school and reads to a class. She doesn't have any kids at that school personally, but she knows the importance of supporting that school. And I think when we can all remember that we're all in this together and we all need to support the schools, I think that changes things.
That's a very good point. That reminds me, my dad he participated in the PALS program, and he went into the schools with his club members, and they read to the students ever so often. So he really enjoyed that. I also think that one resource that we're lacking is our ability to communicate with Spanish-speaking students, because Spanish is the second spoken language in the USA. And just to have conversations with those students, not necessarily, I know they're supposed to learn in English, I understand that. However, for the relationship piece of it, and to be able to relate to them and support them, and even answer their questions. Sometimes we get students who have been in the country for a couple of weeks, or we get students who have been in the country for several months or several years. So I really think that it would benefit all if they would offer us continuing education classes in Spanish, to learn Spanish.
Parent-teacher conferences answer a lot of questions about your misbehaving students. And I would suggest that resources that are lacking could be maybe people my age or people in their 40s trying to understand how school is based on how they grew up. It is a totally different world. My former colleagues that I'm still friends with, they tell me that after COVID, everything changed. That kids act differently than they did pre-COVID. I don't have that data. I retired in 14, but I can suggest that if your child is on their screen most of the time at home, they're trying to do the same at the school, perhaps. And I love what you said about needing to learn social skills, because it's a different world for certainly a high school, but also middle school, because they grow up so much faster than they did when I was roaming with the dinosaurs and going to middle school. We didn't worry about the things these kids are worried about now. Perhaps that's the resource that is missing, is that perspective from parents and people who are not in education, who consider themselves to be experts in everything about it. They need an understanding. I'll close with, I'd like to see every legislator in the General Assembly ride a school bus 5 times a year without a tie and a name tag. Just get on the bus and act like you're a parent and learn a lot of different things that would be good for everybody.
I would say this, as an administrator, there's a fine line between teaching students how to communicate with each other, which cuts down on the behavior, and the cell phones. The cell phones have made the biggest difference with students. That's their social life. Texting at home to students, bullying, cyberbullying is a big thing, not necessarily in my school, but all over the country. As parents, you can't be there every second of the day monitoring what your children are doing. So what you have to do is have conversations with them at home. Talk about what's dangerous and what's not. Teach them to abide by the rules and regulations of the school. But when you have parents who tell kids, I'm gonna call you so-and-so time, and the kid would say, Mom, I'm not allowed to be on my phone. Well, I'm gonna call you anyway. Well, what do you think the kid is gonna do? They're gonna answer that phone, then they're in trouble. So my thing is, it needs to be a community-based project with everybody. My school put a policy in 2 years ago before the governor made that rule. The kids could only use them in the hallway and in the cafeteria during lunch. And they did fine. I had maybe 5 kids that would break that rule, but that was fine, you know, and their excuse was, my mom called me, this type of thing. So we don't have that problem, but we're a small school. I'm quite sure the larger schools have a lot more problems than we do.
But I think you hit the nail on the head of it has to be a community solution.
Yeah.
Because even talking with other parents when it comes to cell phones, they're like, oh no, I need to be able to get in touch with my kid. I'm going, there is nothing that big of an emergency that you need to text or call your kid in the middle of the day. The school has a phone. If you need to get in touch with your child, it is no different than when we were in school, that if there's an emergency, they could call the school and that school can communicate with your child what's going on. but there's nothing so important you need to call or text them in the middle of the day. And then I think the other part of it is we as parents have to come together and say, look, I'm not giving my child a smartphone in middle school. They don't need it. You know, we're going to agree that we're not letting our kids have social media because the bullying, so much of it gets tied back to social media. I can remember a bomb threat coming into a school when I was a financial educator. And when I talked to the students that I worked alongside of for the credit union, they're like, yeah, it all started over Instagram.
Family dynamics as it relates to a cell phone and calling, and maybe I need to make sure that my child knows that I'm okay, or I know that my child is okay. So family dynamics as it relates to getting calls at school or use of the cell phone, I think that's kind of some issues that maybe they need to talk about. But also, I think parents need support. Parents, in other districts that I've been involved in, there were parent centers, a support for parents. And you can come in and you can talk about things that are going on in your household that would help your child. Or there are some things that you could do at the school that can help your child. But support of parents is also very important because they don't come with a manual, and it's very difficult to try to navigate work, your family finances, making sure your child has done their homework, that they're eating a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. So sometimes parents also need the support.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if there was a manual I could get that told me how to navigate
3 manuals.
technology and children, I
Yes.
need them to be prepared for the real world, but I also
Yes.
need them not to be addicted to technology. You know, where's the line?
Yeah.
But also, how am I teaching all of these social skills? What do these words they're coming home and saying mean?
Mom and Dad, if you've decided to give your young child, let's say middle school, a smartphone, when they get it, make them promise that they will recharge it in a public area in your home every single solitary night. Kitchen counter, dining room table, and they'll be used to that by the time they're a senior in high school. And a child psychologist once told me it's your duty to check on what they're doing in their world. People that take those phones up to bed, I mean, they're looking at Nike commercials at 2 in the morning. They're not sleeping. You wonder why they're tired, because they're on their phone. So don't let them take it up to bed.
So I do want to stay on the topic of cell phones for a little bit longer, although you all have done a great job of addressing a lot of things. You brought up the ban from the governor banning cell phones bell to bell in school districts. You said you only really have a handful of students that really seem to struggle with that. Is that everyone's experience who that are teaching or currently in schools now?
No, that is not my experience currently, and I believe that there's too much leeway given to the principals to do what they want to do as far as cell phone usage is concerned in the schools. Because you can probably go right in any county and each building is doing something differently. So if you come to my school, we have one policy. If that student's family moves to another district and goes to a different school, they're going to have a different cell phone policy. I think it should be a uniform policy, and I think if the ban is in place, then the ban should be fully explained to our school leaders so that they know how to follow it. Because cell phones in our schools are a huge distraction. Like you say, they are, it's where the bullying starts. It's where the cheating starts. It is where they look at videos all day during the lesson instead of, they're distracted by the phones. It's where they're texting each other to meet in the restroom in 5-10 minutes. So it's just a huge distraction. As a teacher in the building, we have to compete against cell phone usage. And it's really not fair to us as professionals when we come to school having prepared lessons for these students to learn and succeed, and we only have a certain amount of time in a day and a certain amount of days in the year before they have to be assessed. It's very hard to teach with the cell phones, and then when you address it, then that's another whole issue. And it's just time that doesn't need to be spent addressing cell phone usage.
When they first started allowing them in the classroom, or they didn't necessarily allow them, the policy was you take it away once, you get it back at the end of the day, and then this was in the 2010s or even the zeros. And then if it happened again, then they take it to the office and you get it, the parent has to come get it, and then they're gonna, I remember one year they said, we're gonna keep it for the rest of the year. And that lasted until the dad came up there and said, I'm not paying a monthly fee for you to keep my phone. But so it's got to be impossible. It's why I retired.
Why you retired?
No, I was old and ugly, and but I don't miss that problem. I don't know how one can handle that, because for every 3 kids that you catch, there's 21 that got away with it. It's like gum chewing in the 70s.
You know, this is interesting. When I was in school, we didn't still really have smartphones. Data was expensive, so you were certainly not using that. But 53% of public school leaders now feel that their students' academic performance has been negatively impacted by cell phone usage. It would seem that that would be demoralizing for teachers who are trying to not have that impact. So on the subject of teacher retention, I know you were joking a little bit, David, but on the subject of teacher retention, how do you retain teachers, or how do you stay in the classroom when you are having to battle?
I think it has a lot to do with the administrator. Mm-hmm. As Ivy said, if you have an administrator who's wishy-washy, you're going to have problems. You have to be fair, firm, and consistent across the board. If the governor made a ban on cell phones from bell to bell, we took that seriously. If I have a student that the teacher calls me and say, so-and-so had their phone, they wouldn't give it to me. I'm going up to that classroom, and that child has no choice but to give it to me. If you don't give it to me, then you in the cell both is coming downstairs with me, okay? I'm gonna set that child down and explain to them what the rule is. You know the rule, abide by the rule. And it always come back to, but my mom said, or my dad said. You know, I'm the type, I'll get on the phone, I'll call the parents, and I'm letting you know, this is the law, bell to bell. So our county abides by that rule. When he started it in January, we started it in January. It was an easy transition for us. Kids didn't have the cell phones in the classrooms anyway. But for every county, you've got to have a strong administrator, straight up. We don't lose teachers like that. If we lose the teachers because they're moving or they've retired, we have 3 new teachers this year because we had 2 people who retired and 1 actually got a promotion to teach at the community college. But we don't, our county doesn't lose teachers, very rare.
But it
Very
sounds
rare.
like your school system has fair, firm, consistent administrators. And I
that's-
think you need it in parents too.
That's my motto.
Probably have good
I-
parenting too.
I treat parents the same way I would want someone to treat me. Look, I want anybody in America to know, you've got to love these kids in order to get things done. Build relationships. Every kid that walks through that door know I love them. And they know if I love you, I'm gonna make you do what you're supposed to do, whether you like it or not. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And that definitely speaks to the power of an administrator.
Yes.
The administrator sets the tone for the school, sets
I'm
the
the
tone
first one they
for
see.
That's right.
I
Sets
get them
tone.
off the bus in the morning time.
That's right.
I'm there at 7:20.
That's right.
7:40, I let the first bus off. So I'm the first person they see when they walk through the door in the morning time. And when I'm absent, the kids want to know, where's Miss Hicks? If it's pouring rain, I'm out there. If it's snowing, I'm out there. If it's cold, I'm out there.
Yeah.
Every day.
And Principal Hicks, I definitely applaud your efforts, and I'm sure those students know the expectation. If Principal Hicks is here doing what they need to do, then I'm going to do what I need to do. And it is top down.
Yeah, it is.
And the expectation is there. But not only teachers, but support staff and the students
And we've got a
and
good
their
staff.
parents.
Yes.
So,
And I agree with that, because the principals are really good. They're very supportive. However, it's the support staff and other adults in the building who will, who may, I should say, just not address it when they see it. Like in the morning, coming down the hallway during intake, they can come all the way down to me and will have passed like 10 adults. And granted, someone may have spoken to them, and I know quite a few of them have been spoken to, but they tuck it away and they just pull it right back out. It's their kids. It's just an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing battle. So
Can I get away with it with you? How about you? How about you? How about you? Is it
Exactly.
consistent across the building?
Right.
Okay, I guess this is serious and I have to follow the rules.
right.
Right, and that's where
That's right.
I think we all need to be on the same page.
On the same page.
And we try to do it as a grade level. However, when they come to, we try to do it as a grade level, but we can't control people. You know, we can't control people.
I mentioned adolescent psychology.
Yeah.
Kids love discipline. They don't like it today,
Yes, yes.
but when they come back and visit you, they're glad you made them toe the line, and they're really, they'll fall in line
Yes.
if everybody's on board. And it is a problem if you've got a teacher that wants to be pals.
Yeah, they appreciate,
You're right.
kids
You're
appreciate
right.
the structure. I agree with that.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very structured.
And they rise to the occasion with the expectations.
They do. They do. But they need consistency in their expectations from classroom to classroom to classroom. And I guess that's something that you know, we're trying to achieve right now.
Yes.
You know. And the other thing too is, I work in a school that's underserved. It has an underserved population. And we have lots of substitutes. We have, and so that contributes a lot to the inconsistencies in our building. Like I said, my admin they're great. But when I think back even on this past year, we have long-term subs working, full-time positions. We have lots of, we're understaffed. We're understaffed.
Nationwide.
And yeah, and like sometimes 2 and 3 people in a department, you know, on a grade level. We have 3 substitutes, and we have to step up our, monitoring the halls and everything. So that has played a huge role in the inconsistencies with the cell phone policy, because the substitutes,
I don't know.
they don't know our particular school's policy and the way that we do
Trained in the
things.
pedagogy.
Yes, exactly.
But I think
So-
it goes back to the comment earlier of consistency across all schools.
Yeah.
If we're all following these policies,
Right.
then it's easy for a substitute to come in and go, well, over there it didn't matter, but over here it does.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. That's a great point.
Yeah.
We're all a team.
You all have talked a lot about the troubles that teachers have with these things. We've talked about teacher retention. Our vacancy rates really vary wildly among the schools in Central Virginia, anywhere from last year from 0.8% in Hanover to up to 37% teacher vacancy in Petersburg. So what can be done to keep more teachers in the classroom?
I'm going to jump in on the money thing because this argument was made to me one time. I was in Henrico. There's 7,000 staff there. So if you gave everyone a $10 raise, they're going to punch somebody. But if you gave everyone a $1,000 raise, who can do that math real quick? That's 700,000 or 7 million. Or 10,000 is 10,000 raise, which is what people are going to expect. I mean, if you're going to put money, 10,000, that's a drop in the bucket. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. But that's $7 million. And you better give the firefighters a raise. You better give the police a raise. You better give the librarians a raise. You know, so money isn't the answer. I don't know who went into education thinking they were going to become a millionaire. The community needs to step up. I mean, look into just buying the entire faculty lunch one day. I mean, get a PTA together that will do that, or have people there's all kinds of solutions to boost morale. I think, and again, I'm out of touch, that a lot of these teachers think they're going at it alone and nobody understands them. And when somebody comes in, it's always negative. Remember the old cartoon where in the 50s they yell at the child, you better explain these grades, and nowadays they yell at the parent, the teacher, excuse me, you better explain these grades. And the kids are all smug. It's a matter of morale, and there's a lot of ways the communities can improve that, I think.
And I definitely agree. Education, we are not here for the money. We love the children. We want to provide a safe space for children. We want to provide the best enriched environment for children. Money is not the problem, but teachers need to feel supported, not only by the administration, but also by peer-to-peer support. There's a lot of peer-to-peer support that can happen. Professional development, a lot of teachers that I have been associated with, there are skills that they're lacking, but those skills, you have to pay for those skills outside of the school building. There needs to be more staff development, more professional development that is involved or provided in schools. And for the teachers to tone their skills so they are more able to deal with all of the challenges, because with training you can deal with the challenges. But if you're having some difficulty and you're not getting the support of your administrator, and things are going on that you really have little information on beyond what the curriculum is, of course, then you get burned out.
Yeah, I understand. I am one who I just love to communicate with the parents. And we have strong community support at my school. We have a great PTA. They love on us from day one to the last day of school. It's awesome. But I know that a lot of, because a lot of times I will co-teach, okay? But a lot of times, teachers, not just some of my co-teachers, but teachers across the board, really try to avoid communicating with the parents sometimes. It's my favorite thing to do. And I think in the beginning of the school year, I think that's when you really should do it. And we do it, some like it, some don't. I enjoy it. But we do it because we are required to contact the parents of every child and introduce ourselves and say something positive about their student and tell them how we're looking forward to spending the school year with them and them being successful. And when you set that tone with a parent, something positive off their bat, it's the beginning of that relationship. Yes. And it works wonders. I love that about where I work. And so later on, when I have to contact them about something that's not so great about their kid, you just still remind them that that's a great kid, but you just don't like that particular behavior. And we have really good parental support because of that.
And I must say that parents who engage with the teacher or the administrator, it's a reflection of how their own parents were treated in school. So if well, my mother was a principal, so I have a good regard for the school and the teacher and the principal and the system, but there are other families that their experiences in school were not positive. And their mother was dismissed when they went to school to check on them or got a call from the teacher. So they're very reticent to engage with the teacher, engage with the principal, because all they know is their own family experience. And that's where this parent support could come in, because not all administrators are the same, not all teachers are the same, and but for parents to realize that the engagement with their child's teacher is very important, and it's a team. You're their child's first teacher, but the teacher here, we want to partner and teach your child.
I've done work in conflict resolution professionally, and one of the things that is consistent when there is conflict, it's a breakdown in communication. And so the importance of starting that communication off the bat positively sets such a great tone and makes such a difference so that when something does come up, you can address it. I think the big thing with parental support, I am mindful of the fact that, like, I work a job where if all things go as it's supposed to, I work Sunday to Thursday. So Fridays, I have some freedom in my schedule because that's my day off. And so I try to be intentional about using that day to support the schools when I can. It's a little bit harder on other days of the week, but when I can, being there to support. But the school my kids go to is very racially diverse and very economically diverse. Not everybody can come in the middle of a school day and volunteer. And so I'm very mindful of that. So when I can and where I can, I think it's important for me to do that because not everybody can. Yes. And I think making sure that we all kind of recognize that, like, if you have the bandwidth to do it because the schools need you. And if your kid's school doesn't need you, there's a school that does. And then making sure to partner where we can. I think the PTA at my kid's school does a really good job of supporting our teachers. It's what I've been told by teachers there, but sometimes you wonder, is it just lip service? But there are schools that don't have great PTAs. I remember I had an in-school branch at one of the high schools, and the PTA president was a grandmother of a kid who had graduated 2 years prior. They could not get someone to step up and serve on the PTA. And I think being mindful of that sometimes it's going to require our PTAs partnering with other schools to support them and figuring out and needing principals to talk to each other and helping to connect us, because we don't know where there are gaps and we need to partner together. Yeah. But the importance of remembering it takes a village to raise a child. I can't do it by myself. And I don't think any of us can, and remembering that we're going to get a whole lot more done if we can work together for these kids.
You remember when you were in school, they always said it takes a village to raise a child. And that village was your community, your grandparents, and you had a lot of extended families with the aunt or the uncle or the grandparents actually living in the home with you. So the parents could work without having to worry about their children. Now you don't have that. You don't have the extended families anymore. You got a lot of single parents who have to work. So the older child is trying their best to help the parent out by watching the younger children. Yeah. So you kind of have the younger child being led by the middle child or the oldest child. So there's no really learning taking place there. Okay? You look at these colleges, people are not going into education anymore. The money stinks, which doesn't help. The hours are not long, but frustrating. You don't always have what you want. You don't always have the material that you want, and every school system is different. So you might have this school that has a fight every day, 5 or 6 times a day. Well, that becomes frustrating for teachers. Or they may have a kid in the classroom. It only takes one kid to create havoc in your classroom. So what do you think? Word of mouth is spreading. Girl, if I were you, I would go into education. Basically, that's what they're doing. They're not going in it. That's why all of these schools, Petersburg, City of Richmond, all of these schools are looking for teachers. And I know they had a thing out last year where they were offering retired teachers the opportunity to keep their retirement and come back to work, you know, because they're desperate.
I started teaching in 1979, and the Peace Corps generation was right in their happy place of teaching. They had 10, 12, 15 years experience. There were exactly 2 jobs open in Virginia.
Yeah.
I went to a teacher's college, and there were more, but I wasn't going to go 8 hours away from Richmond, and it was heavy competition, and they warned us that way, and it's the exact opposite in 2025.
Yeah.
The number of students graduating with a degree in education versus the number of openings is woefully low. And I think when you look at the cost of college, we have a good friend whose son is going off to college this year, and when he shared with me the tuition rates, I was gobsmacked that for a 4-year degree was going to cost more than my graduate and undergraduate degree. That you can't go into teaching with what the rate of pay is and what the student loans are going to be. It doesn't make sense.
And I had 2 in college at the same time. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but, you know, but that's been 8, 9 years ago. They're grown and on their own.
Yeah.
I begged them to go into education, and they said no way. So they went into business.
I'm gonna brag on my 3 kids. They all went into teaching, at least for a couple of years. 1 at VCU, and 2, one was a guidance counselor in Chesterfield. Never mind.
Yeah.
But you're doing good, kids.
The thing about going into education, my mother was a teacher, and I fought it for so many years. And everyone told me, oh, you should be a teacher, you should be a teacher. So I worked the corporate world. I was a manager in different aspects in different businesses. I have a business degree. Finally, I went back to school and got my teaching license. And when I entered the classroom, I had to take a $10,000 pay cut. So at that point, for at least the first 10 years of my career as a teacher, I had to work 2 jobs. I had to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. So, and like you say, we don't go into it for the money. But I went into it because I had a 4-year-old at the time, and a lot of neighborhood kids were at my house, and I was taking care of all of these kids, and I said, well, I may as well get paid to take care of these kids. But I really wanted to, English was my biggest thing. I wanted them to be able to speak their own native language. And it is very true that, because I see it every day in the classroom, so many other nationalities come in and they speak our language better than our own children do. And that is one of my pet peeves. And I think that it is a result of the changes in the curriculum. We have a whole generation who do not know past participles. My daughter's one of them. It irks me. I hear it on the news. I heard it last week on the news. They don't know past participles, but it's not their fault. It has not been stressed in the curriculum.
But I'm admittedly a language nerd. I've studied several. And I think one of the things that fails us here is our lack of studying other languages at an early age. Waiting until high school for most kids, middle school for some, it's hard. And every year you get older, it gets harder and harder to learn a new language. Their brains are like sponges in elementary school. And I have found I felt like I was a good student in school. English grammar was always the bane for me. It was so difficult. But once I started studying other languages, the grammar suddenly made sense.
Exactly.
That you learn what you really know better by learning something you don't know, I feel
I
like.
love
And
that.
pushing yourself and stretching yourself. That I felt like I learned French grammar better when I studied Koine Greek. That I was like, oh, that's what, like it suddenly clicked.
But you're speaking about something that kids aren't tested on at those early ages, right? About integrating something in the curriculum that a standardized test won't see how they did at the end of the year. And so how do you propose that schools integrate curriculum that isn't designed for a test that teachers increasingly feel pressured to teach to?
Trust
Man.
the teacher.
Well, I think there's that.
Trust the teacher. Come
I mean,
on. We have
standardized
moved so far away from.
Yes.
How many of you have told a stranger I'm a teacher and they go, oh, man, that's fantastic? I mean, you know, because they don't know you. But it used to be you trusted the teacher. They had the best thing in mind for you.
Yeah.
We've gotten away from that. You're never going to get away from standardized testing, but it's just silly. I can say that because I'm retired. Nobody can fire
that's
me.
a great question, though.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, just like the students in elementary school have art class, they have PE class, they can have a foreign language class. I know I started taking foreign language in 6th grade. I took it 6th through 12th. And I'd never heard of the word conjugate. And then, and when you take a foreign language, they make you conjugate a
right.
verb. And I don't, yeah, so these types of things, our students with the English language need to know how to conjugate our verbs.
Flew perfect.
Yeah, so it's just lots of different things
Yeah.
that we can
Rehabilitate.
improve, you know.
And I think with learning languages, and any type of learning is so important. But I think learning a new language earlier in life, in elementary, is very important. But we also have to respect that language, there is very little language equity as relates to those who already know those languages and how those languages are respected in the workplace, how they're respected even when you come to a school building. So that's important too. It's important to know a language, to be versed in the English language and all that the nuances of English, proper English language, but then also, if someone speaks another language, be respectful of the language that they speak and all that it took for them to learn their language, you know, is important. Language equity.
I've given parent-teacher conferences where the translator was the middle school student.
Yeah, and that's
So I'm saying Billy never does his homework and he, you know, acts out in class, and he's saying, Mr. Hillgrove says I'm really, really good in the classroom.
and that's not fair to put on the child to do anyway. So,
Well,
yeah.
Mom and Dad hadn't learned it.
Yeah.
I literally walked kids to the ESL classroom that had gotten in the day before, from wherever they were. Usually it was Latin American countries, but this child's scared to death.
Yeah, of course.
That's, you know, there's some compassion we could use in the community, but that's another whole story.
When you touched on standardized testing, and the heart of when they kind of came into be was to make sure that we've got equity in the classroom, that is everybody teaching the same thing or all of the kids learning, which, you know, we know that there are gaps across the country and even across school systems, but at the heart of it, not focusing exclusively on what those test scores mean. And the metric keeps changing. Like our principal does a monthly spilling the tea, is what they call it, and had shared that the metrics for our English language learners have changed. That now, it used to be they had more semesters in school before they had to take an SOL, and now they're taking it earlier. So you're struggling with English comprehension, and now you're having to take an SOL in social studies or science, which is very reading heavy, and you can't function in the language, how are you getting a fair test score? So
I don't think anybody cares about that. I mean, we do, but
yeah, but I think the reality is, I mean, we're sitting
Administrative.
and we're punishing a teacher for it, or if a parent opts their kid out of taking the SOL, how that counts against the teacher, where that teacher could be doing great things in the classroom. Or if a student isn't a strong standardized test taker, how does that, you know, having that reflect that the teacher's not teaching, but if you talk with that student, they're learning really well. To get ordained as a minister, I had to take 5 ordination exams. And they even have protocols that if someone can't pass them, you take them a few times, and then you have the opportunity to take an oral exam to test you. That recognizing everybody learns different, everybody tests differently, that even finding different ways to kind of assess. I mean, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. We have to trust the teacher.
Yeah.
But when we're all using different metrics, I mean,
Right.
every state's not using the same standardized test system, and I feel like it's probably become a business of who's got the best system, who can give the best deal.
And if the test is standardized, but the curriculum and the implementation of the curriculum is not standardized, then the results will be different, because this community was provided all the resources, this community was provided minimal resources, but their standardized tests is to assess what the full curriculum was supposed to present. So standardized testing is just, the test is standardized, but I'm sure the implementation of the information that is assessed on the test is, there's no standard for that, because children learn differently, teachers are presenting information differently, they're receiving the information differently, so standardized testing is a sore point for me.
there'd be an end of standardized testing if you gave those same tests out 3 weeks after they were given and not tell anyone, and see how little they retain from the 10 minutes before the test until 3 weeks later. People would realize it's a game, it's a gerbil on a wheel chasing something that's not worth it.
A friend pointed out, we got, not too long ago, the scores for SOLs, and then we also got scores for, Henrico uses for elementary this program called iReady for helping them with reading. And the iReady diagnostics that came out gave me so much more information than the SOL results did. I mean, it showed me all of this data from what my student was reading at the beginning of the year versus the end. It even gave me links to what their reading level was, suggested types of books to get them to read. So much more helpful than that SOL result ever could or would be.
But you can't quantify how much they loved that girl that they read about from Laura Ingalls, you know, how much they learned about love, life, and laughter from a beautifully written story. You can't quantify that on a standardized test.
Yeah.
We've gotten so far away from what's important.
Does my kid walk away from school loving to read? Like, that's what I want from my child. I don't care what their score says, but do they have a love of reading? Because that's going to affect how they do in every subject. Can you read? I mean, I have a friend, their son still reads at an elementary level because they've got some learning disabilities. And so he's sitting here taking middle school SOLs. It's not a fair test. He's not able to take that, and then yet we're going to sit here and say that he's failing, and we're going to say that his teacher's failing. To me, it's an invalid test.
David, you mentioned getting so far away from what's important, and so I want to finish up here with one thing about AI, because one thing that people think is being lost is just critical thinking and reading comprehension and the increased use of AI in the classroom.
I cannot imagine chasing down AI as a teacher. I just cannot imagine how you would tell the difference between little Johnny's report and something that he took 4.5 minutes to punch a couple keystrokes in.
You can tell.
Well, there are districts, I'm not sure about in the Commonwealth, but there are districts that use AI in the classroom, and using this program called Khan Academy, Conmigo, like come with me go, and is a AI tool that both teachers use and students use in the classroom. And they talk about, they have a subject, and the teacher presents a subject, and then they go on this tool, and the teacher has something to say, and the kids have something to say. And they both interface with this tool. Khan Academy has been out for years, but they're pairing AI with Khan Academy. And it's a support, and I saw that on the news just the other day.
Bill Gates helped to co-fund Khan Academy when he first came online.
Yeah. So they said we can't get away from it, so better to join them than beat them. One of those.
Get beaten by them, I would
But I mean,
imagine.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's the problem we've had with, like even going back to cell phones. Oh, well, everybody has one. And then you start asking your child, who's everybody? And it's 2 kids out of a class of 160. And I'm going, everybody? I mean, sometimes you have to call the nonsense for what it is of going, look, if we just agree, we're not going to allow AI in the classroom. Like, I don't want my kid to use it. I want you to develop those critical thinking skills. I want you to be able to grow in reading.
Yeah.
My kids love graphic novels, love them. And I think it's great because it helps kids get a love of reading, but it also doesn't lend the same critical thinking and reading comprehension that you get out of reading a chapter book. So I had to sit there and come up with going, how am I going to get my kids to read more chapter books? I said, all right, you get ice cream every time you finish a chapter book. And it's got to be a thick one.
Yeah, and
But
AI should
they
not
read a lot.
supplant education, critical thinking skills. And that's something else that I think needs to be taught in school is critical thinking skills. Can you solve this problem on your own? Not using AI or even asking the teacher to solve the problem for you. But with this increase in artificial intelligence, unless we partner or pair with it, we can't dismiss it. We can't discount it. It's there. It's being used. Now we can see if our students are using it for some nefarious reason. Maybe we can, but we need to get ahead of it or at least catch up to it. There's no way that with so many things happening in education that we can discount artificial intelligence as something that we can master and get over on. We need to pair with it because it's going to overwhelm our systems.
I understand. I believe I'm not a strong advocate for AI in the classroom. I also believe that the students should be able to use their critical thinking skills. They should be able to learn to read and write. And I know sometimes we get students to look things up. I don't want any student responding with any words that they cannot explain to me.
Yes.
So I ask them straight up, so what does that mean? If they can't tell me what it means, then you need to go and rewrite that. Any explanation, any answer to a test, no, they have to, and we have ways to determine the cheating. Like we know, I'm not going to go over it now because we need to one up on them. But yes, we know when they're plagiarizing. We catch them. That's not the issue. But I understand that AI is here. It's not going anywhere. I would more so like to see it relieve the teachers of certain duties. Our job is so intense, so time consuming.
Off day too.
Yeah, and
People
so
don't
we
realize
spend a
that.
lot of time out of the school working. And so if it can help us in that way, I might be for it.
And they're ramping that up fast.
Yeah.
And
I'm there for that because we are already educated. We already know what to do. We can catch any mistakes that AI might do. But if it can help us do things a little bit more efficiently or quicker, I might be for that.
imagine if you've got 3 preps And you're 1 or 2 years out of college, which may or may not have prepared you for
Right.
the hours it takes to teach. I'm speaking high school, but how great would it be to let AI help
I've had 3
take you
preps in
through
middle
a
school.
sociology curriculum that you weren't necessarily, you had a couple classes, but you were expecting to teach U.S. history, and instead they put you in sociology, econ, and
Right.
That's the
It can be used for tutoring also,
yeah.
Yeah, that's the
especially
parent,
for students that are struggling in math. And students that need that phonetic area of reading. It helps. Research, it's good for research. If you're teaching a student in a classroom, you can very easily tell whether that was the AI speaking
Yeah.
or writing that paper or whether it was the student. And we have an honor code in our school. And if they break the honor code, then they know they get a 0 on that project or whatever. And they don't want to do that, so.
I'm not foolish enough to believe that technology isn't going anywhere. But it's one of those where I believe firmly in the ability of pen and paper, that the amount of things that kids are doing on screens all the time, that I'm one of these parents where my kids don't have a ton of screen time, especially on a school day, because I know how much time they're spending on it in the classroom, but needing to get back to some of those basics. I can remember going in to my daughter's 4th grade class for her reading teacher. They kind of departmentalized the courses, and the teacher had them start out with like outlining their writing assignment, then writing their handwritten rough draft, and then getting to the point of typing it up. Where that kid had to figure out, do I know how to spell it? There's nothing wrong with spell check. It's artificial intelligence is figuring it out right there. Like, that's not a bad thing, but getting those kids back to basics and then figuring out how to layer the stuff in a smart way. You've got to know how to do the basics before you can do it. It's like knowing your math facts before using a calculator.
And you're exactly right. And I think that's where the equity and the differential of resources come into play, because perhaps at your daughter's school, those resources and the parent support and the things are intrinsic on that campus. But when you think about other schools and marginalized communities and under resource communities, those things aren't available to all children. And how we can augment, support, complement some of the curriculum or the teacher support or things like that could be with artificial intelligence for some things, not for all things. Not for all things. I look at I have 3 that graduated from Henrico schools. I look at my son's penmanship. And I went to Catholic school, and I have a perfect loop in every
There you
letter.
go.
Every letter's a perfect loop. But cursive writing was not the focus in schools. So his cursive writing is horrible.
It was actually taken removed from the curriculum, and I think
Yeah.
they have it back now.
Yeah.
But to make a point about the AI with the spell check, I had a student, excuse me, who was wanted me to review their essay before they, turned it in to their English teacher. And I'm reading through the essay, and I said, well, this word is misspelled. They said, oh, well, I use spell check. Well, the student doesn't know, because it's a commonly confused word.
Yeah.
The kid, they need to know the difference. And so AI, it was not perfect on that one, but the students need to be educated enough to know when that word is misspelled.
Right.
That was one thing. And the other thing, where you mentioned the students. So the cursive writing thing, and I have someone who brought this to my attention, especially with you being a history teacher. A lot of our historical documents are written in cursive. Our kids can't read cursive. And now they're going through, instead of making or encouraging or putting cursive in the curriculum and enforcing it to the point where they can read and write cursive, they're changing the historical documents to print.
I didn't know that.
They
You can
are,
volunteer
they
to
are doing that.
translate cursive.
They are doing that. Right now, I'm getting lots of thank you notes from students who have graduated. They have trouble signing their names in the thank you notes.
There's a historical issue with that, with kids not knowing how to sign their names. Like, oh gosh, that
My daughter just bought a car. She has to sign her name. She's good because
You didn't.
I made sure she learned it.
Right.
She will buy houses and homes. You have to sign your name. Yeah. Legibly.
oh my
I
goodness.
think that cursive writing is the place where you will find a lot of agreement among many generations other than the current one. And so I think that might be the best place to end it for tonight. But thank you all so much for being here with us and for speaking so candidly about your experiences and your hopes. We won't solve all of the problems here today, but at least we started talking about them.